administration is shameful. Y'all are a disgrace.
We're watching the fall of this administration.
Yeah, we are.
What I think is interesting about this case, this story, is you can be highly legal.
Dalton, Illinois has turned into a hot spot for local drama, with the latest showdown between Trustee Kiana Beller and Mayor Tiffany Henyard stealing the spotlight. This isn't just another small-town government issue. It's a full-blown saga, packed with power struggles, accusations, and fiery debates. And let's face it, who doesn't love a bit of political gossip? At the heart of this feud is a critical issue: accountability. Trustee Beller has made it her mission to challenge what many see as a lack of transparency from Mayor Henyard. As tensions escalate, Dalton's board meetings have become far from ordinary, sparking heated discussions and drawing the attention of the entire community.
South Holland, in a room filled with curiosity and concern, Tiffany Henyard addressed her constituents.
The Thornton Township Supervisor and Dalton Mayor invited the community to Township Talk, where she responded to our report about her use of the township credit card by mentioning
Trustee Kiana Beller, known for her outspoken nature, has kept a sharp focus on Dalton's finances, particularly in light of growing concerns over questionable spending. Her worries have only deepened with the ongoing allegations against Mayor Tiffany Henyard, whose leadership has been described as unorthodox. Henyard is facing accusations of mishandling funds, overspending, and even intentionally creating a lack of paper trails to avoid scrutiny. This raises an important question. Are these officials truly serving the public, or is it all political maneuvering? The situation reached a boiling point during a recent board meeting when the topic of Henyard's inauguration expenses came up. It was revealed that the village had covered the cost for Henyard's inauguration, but Trustee Beller wasn't about to let it slide. With a sharp yet professional tone, she asked, "Were we at a set dollar amount or no?" Responded to both questions. Every single fundraiser had shied away from Trustee Beller, and it was revealed that political donors held trust Henyard's. The room fell silent as the village attorney explained that the expenses were legal under the special event fund, which had already been budgeted for such occasions. He further clarified that individual invoices under $5,000 didn't require prior board approval. But Beller wasn't convinced, and Morgan became more and more worried. He tried to calm down, but his body was a mess of jitters and panic. She quickly pointed out a loophole. The event's invoices had been strategically split into smaller amounts, each under $5,000, to bypass the approval process. When asked about this, the attorney admitted that while individual invoices under $5,000 could be approved without prior board approval, the board could still approve them retroactively. The loophole was clear, and Beller wasn't about to overlook it. She voted against the motion, standing firm in her belief that the process lacked transparency and accountability. Mayor Henyard defended the practice, insisting that the expenses were within budget and dismissing Trustee Beller's objections as unnecessary drama. She suggested that concerns could have been addressed privately instead of during the public meeting, a preference for handling disputes behind closed doors that has become a recurring theme in her approach. However, Beller stood firm, emphasizing the importance of transparency and open discussion. She argued that trustees have a responsibility to ask tough questions and ensure accountability for the decisions presented to them. Beller's statement resonated with the audience, sparking murmurs of agreement and adding to the palpable tension in the room. For many residents, this wasn't just about the inauguration expenses. It was about a broader concern regarding the lack of transparency in Dalton's budgeting process. Henyard's dismissive approach to criticism has long fueled frustration as critics point to a history of questionable spending, including lavish taxpayer-funded trips and approving expenses without proper oversight. But what truly stirred controversy was Henyard's tendency to brush off criticism, often labeling it as personal attacks. At one point, she even compared herself to a martyr, claiming that her critics were doing to her what they did to Jesus Christ. The real issue, however, appears to be Henyard's approach to governance, or rather, the lack thereof. For many residents, the inauguration expenses were just the tip of the iceberg. The larger concern lies in a budget process that feels far from transparent. During the same meeting, Trustee Beller raised alarms about the budget, which had been presented to the trustees with insufficient time for proper review. "We got it at 3:26 p.m., Beller said, visibly frustrated. "Residents haven't even been able to look at it, and now we're expected to make an informed decision. I'm about to leave you now," he said. He called for a more detailed, itemized breakdown of the budget, similar to previous years. But Henyard appeared more focused on pushing the process forward than addressing those concerns. This left many wondering whether transparency was truly a priority in Dalton's government.
Community concerns in Thornton Township and a push to regulate what some call out-of-control spending by Township Supervisor in Dalton.
For longtime observers of Dalton politics, Mayor Henyard's shift in behavior is striking. When she was a trustee, she was known for her meticulousness, often going through every budget line item and questioning even the smallest discrepancies. On one occasion, she asked about a budget line for tree trimming, saying, "I understand we're doing cuts, but I get a ton of complaints about trees. I think that amount should stay where it's at." And finally, she even advocated for increasing the budget for tree maintenance, showing her deep involvement in the details of the township's spending. Fast forward to today, and that same level of scrutiny seems to have disappeared, raising concerns of a glaring double standard. Henyard's critics have not overlooked this change in behavior, and it's become a point of contention in her leadership. Even today, the town is often referred to as one of the worst places in the country, and yet it's one of the most selfless, courageous, and happy people. But the drama didn't end there. The meeting also delved into the ongoing village credit card controversy, a topic that's been a source of debate for months. The finance director claimed the cards had been canceled last year, but Trustee Beller wasn't convinced. If the cards were canceled, why are there still electronic warrant lists showing charges? She asked. Then, finally angry, one of the waiters made a weird noise. Tension filled the room as Henyard accused Beller and another trustee of hijacking the village's bank accounts. Beller quickly refuted the claim, providing evidence that emails from the bank showed Henyard's own team had access to the accounts, not the trustees. Once again, the narrative of obstruction and confusion seemed to benefit only one person, Henyard. The room remained tense as Beller's efforts to shed light on the situation revealed a deeper issue, one that many feel is being deliberately obscured by the mayor.
There were many tense moments in tonight's meeting. At times, Supervisor Tiffany Henyard took on her fellow trustees when it came to money and expenses, even accusing some of them of spreading lies.
What's particularly striking about these meetings is the growing divide between Mayor Henyard and the other trustees. While Trustee Beller and her colleagues push for transparency and collaboration, Henyard seems to be doubling down on her authority. She frequently reminds the board that they don't run day-to-day operations. A not-so-subtle way of asserting control. The funny thing about leadership is that, instead of letting grow, the Eric Beller Committee goes the day-to-day operations. A not-so-subtle way of asserting control. However, this heavy-handed approach has fueled perceptions that Henyard is more focused on consolidating power than serving the people of Dalton, and the residents are noticing. Frustrated by the lack of progress and constant political infighting, local residents have begun speaking out. "The real business isn't being done because of all this nonsense," said resident Daryl Lean. "We need action, somebody who's actually going to work for the people, not themselves," wrote Henyard in an email to Women's Education, speaking to AWTS. With the village facing a financial deficit in the millions, Henyard's critics argue that her leadership has only deepened the crisis, pointing to her lavish spending and inability to foster cooperation within the board. The call for change is growing louder. "You all thought that I was young, dumb, didn't know nothing, was gonna let y'all come and manipulate me? I didn't do any of that," Henyard declared. "So because I didn't do any of that, you guys started this whole smear campaign." What makes the saga even more compelling is the sheer audacity of it all. Mayor Henyard, who once prided herself on fighting for transparency and accountability, now seems to be doing everything in her power to avoid it. While Trustee Kiana Beller's persistence has earned her praise from some, it has also made her a target. Henyard has repeatedly tried to discredit Beller, accusing her of creating unnecessary drama and undermining the board's unity. But Beller isn't backing down. As the meeting wrapped up, it was clear that the tension between her and Henyard wasn't going away anytime soon. The two women represent opposing visions for Dalton's future, and their clash has come to symbolize the deep divisions within the village. For Beller, the fight is about restoring trust and accountability. For Henyard, it's about maintaining control in the face of mounting criticism. So let's pray together. And as you pray, we will pray for your rest in the name of Jesus. For the people of Dalton, this ongoing battle is yet another chapter in a long and messy story of local politics gone awry. The real question is whether Dalton can survive this leadership crisis, or if the village is doomed to repeat the same mistakes. One thing's for sure, this isn't the last we'll hear of Trustee Kiana Beller and Mayor Tiffany Henyard. Stay tuned because the drama is far from over. Here's the kicker. When you think the political drama in Dalton, Illinois can possibly get any messier, somehow it does. Trustee Kiana Beller and Mayor Tiffany Henyard might as well be starring in their own reality show at this point. And honestly, it would be a hit. The sheer level of chaos unfolding in these board meetings is unmatched. What's even more astonishing is how these conflicts are exposing deeper issues of seemingly unchecked power, financial mismanagement, and the constant battle for control.
How you're out of order. You're out of order. How do they operate?
Let's rewind to one of the more jaw-dropping moments from a recent meeting. The subject of payroll transparency came up. You'd think something as straightforward as providing payroll reports to trustees would be a no-brainer. Trustee Kiana Beller and fellow trustee Jason House revealed they had been repeatedly blocked from accessing basic financial documents they needed to make informed decisions. According to Beller, the finance department had outright stated they couldn't release the reports without approval from Mayor Henyard. "We've been asking for months," Beller said, her frustration palpable. "How can we make decisions for this village if we can't see where the money's going?" Henyard, of course, denied everything. "I've never told anyone not to share payroll reports," she said, her tone dripping with exasperation. "Why would I need to approve something like that? That's just not true." But here's the kicker. Beller wasn't buying it. She came prepared, pulling up emails showing that the finance director had indeed cited instructions from the mayor as a reason for withholding the reports. The room went silent, and you could practically hear the collective gasp from the audience. Henyard, however, brushed it off as a misunderstanding, claiming the finance team must have misinterpreted her directions. But it doesn't end there. In a surprising twist, Beller announced that she'll be on the general election ballot, despite an attempt to block her candidacy by an ally of current mayor Tiffany Henyard. Beller is running for re-election, but wait, it gets better. Or worse, depending on how you look at it. The clash over payroll access is just one piece of a much larger puzzle. Mayor Henyard has been accused of creating a culture of secrecy within her administration, and this extends far beyond payroll. Take, for example, the village's credit card scandal. During the same meeting, Beller questioned why the board hadn't received any credit card statements since May of the previous year. "If we're paying these bills, we need to see what we're actually approving," she said. And honestly, she's got a point. How can anyone sign off on expenses they haven't even seen?
Supervisor Tiffany Henyard is finding a way to spend money that trustees say they intentionally did not approve. One describing
Henyard responded with a mix of deflection and vague explanations, asserting that the credit cards had been canceled months earlier and that the village was no longer using them. However, Beller demanded evidence, questioning why final statements hadn't been provided and why charges were still appearing on the warrant list. Henyard denied any wrongdoing, accusing Beller and Trustee House of being overly dramatic and creating unnecessary controversy. Later, emails from the bank revealed that Henyard's team still had full access to the accounts, directly contradicting her statements. The situation played out like a plot twist in a thriller, except it was real life. with Dalton taxpayers caught in the middle. She's one of the most recognizable faces in the news lately. Tiffany Henyard, the mayor of Dalton, has been the subject of heated discussions on social media. Speaking of taxpayers, let's take a step back and look at the bigger picture. Dalton is currently facing a financial crisis, with a deficit running into the millions. Instead of focusing on solutions, the board seems to be locked in endless power struggles. Tiffany considers that very noble wishes. She gave a little bit of her travel money and then tried impressively to walk away with her wallet. Residents are understandably fed up. "We're the ones who suffer while they argue over nonsense," one voter said after the meeting. "How about they actually fix something for once?" It's a sentiment shared by many in the community, especially as the village's financial woes continue to worsen. The Henyard administration has faced severe criticism for the alleged misuse of public funds on personal luxuries. Reports suggest tens of thousands of dollars have been spent on questionable items, including frivolous Amazon purchases, as one trustee described. Said another trustee, fully dressed, with his face still protected. Additionally, Henyard's inauguration expenses, which she claimed were intended for the people, are widely seen as extravagant and self-serving. Many residents have expressed frustration, with some equating the misuse of funds to treating the village's finances like a personal piggy bank. Community's patience is wearing thin, and the call for accountability is growing louder.
A little bit of both.
Wow.
Let's talk about the title of this, because it's called Super Mayor, and that is what Tiffany Henyard calls.
Despite the allegations, Mayor Henyard has dismissed the criticism as a smear campaign orchestrated by her political opponents. She frames the attacks as a reaction to her position as a strong woman in power, claiming they aim to undermine her authority. However, this narrative is challenged by the fact that many of her critics, such as Trustee Beller, are also women who have been vocal about demanding accountability. Beller's approach sharply contrasts with Henyard's, known for her commitment to transparency. Beller has consistently asked tough questions and shown a willingness to confront the mayor even at the risk of political fallout. Her determination has earned her widespread support from Dalton residents eager for change, with some praising her as one of the few genuinely fighting for the community's interests. Has this surprised you, how much the viewership has gravitated toward her, like people from all over the world? Nevertheless, Henyard continues to have a base of loyal supporters who view her as a groundbreaking leader facing unfair opposition. At a recent public event, one supporter described her as a trailblazer targeted for challenging the status quo. And Abigail, while her tenure has included initiatives aimed at improving Dalton's infrastructure, critics argue that these efforts have been overshadowed by the controversies surrounding her administration. One of the most telling moments in this ongoing saga came toward the end of a recent meeting when Beller delivered a scathing critique of Henyard's leadership. "This isn't about personal attacks," Beller said. "It's about raising the vibration of the community. It's about elevating the quality of life in the community. It's about getting people to think about how people like her live lives better than others, like others. This is about doing what's right for the people of Dalton. We're not here to serve ourselves, we're here to serve them." Her words were met with applause from the audience, but Henyard remained unfazed. "I'm doing my job," she shot back. "Maybe you should focus on doing yours." That exchange sums up the entire dynamic between these two women. On one side, you have Beller, the relentless watchdog who refuses to back down. On the other, you have Henyard, the embattled mayor who sees every critique as a threat to her authority. It's a battle of wills, and neither seems willing to concede an inch. The question now is, how much longer can this go on before Dalton itself starts to crumble under the weight of their conflict? And this is a core, and yet it's a parallel between Dalton and the weight of their conflict. What's under the core of their conflict? As the political storm continues to brew in Dalton, Illinois, one can't help but wonder, is Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership truly benefiting the village, or is it time for a change? And what about Trustee Kiana Beller's relentless pursuit of transparency? Is it a noble cause or a disruptive force? We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to weigh in on this heated debate. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates on this riveting saga. As the meeting adjourned, the tension in the room was palpable. Outside, the conversation continued, with residents passionately debating who was really to blame for the village's problems. Some pointed fingers at Henyard, accusing her of corruption and incompetence. Others defended her, arguing that she was being unfairly targeted by a board that refuses to cooperate. There were those who seemed simply exhausted by the whole thing. This manipulation. Nobody likes being manipulated, and when you get here, you know that's exactly what's happening. But here's the thing. This isn't just about Dalton. The drama unfolding in this small Illinois village mirrors larger issues facing local governments across the country. It's about transparency, accountability, and a delicate balance of power. One cactus apparition, sort of at the forefront of mind, when I think about all the transparency issues facing local governments across the country. It's not just about transparency, it's about accountability and a delicate balance of power. While the details may differ, the underlying themes are all too familiar. A story of ambition, rivalry, and the struggle to do what's right, even when it feels like everything is stacked against you. As the political storm continues to brew in Dalton, Illinois, one can't help but wonder, is Mayor Tiffany Henyard's leadership truly benefiting the village, or is it time for a change? And what about Trustee Kiana Beller's relentless pursuit of transparency? Is it a noble cause or a disruptive force? We encourage you to share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to weigh in on this heated debate. Until next time, stay tuned for more updates on this riveting saga.